Ever get that feeling? Like a story just grabs hold of you and won't let go.
Oh, absolutely. Happens to me all the time, especially with cases like the one we're diving into today.
Right. The 1978 Burger Chef murders in Speedway, Indiana. 4 young employees just, poof, vanished.
A whole community left wondering what happened, who would do such a thing. And the worst part, decades later, those questions still hang in the air.
Unsolved. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces. So that's our mission today, right? To try and piece together what we know, what makes sense, and what just doesn't add up.
Exactly. Let's dive into the heart of it all. Back to November 1978, a typical night at the Speedway Burger Chef. Nothing out of the ordinary.
At least not at first.
Yeah.
We've got Jane Freed, the assistant manager, 20 years old, responsible, saving up for college.
Closing up with 3 teenagers. Ruth Shelton, full of life, loved animals, always a smile on her face.
Daniel Davis, the quiet one, super talented guitarist. And Mark Flemons, the youngest, always ready to lend a hand.
Kids with their whole lives ahead of them, it's heartbreaking.
And they're just gone.
Safes open, money missing. But inside the restaurant, no sign of a struggle. Like, they walked out willingly.
Except they didn't.
Right.
2 days later.
Their bodies turn up in a wooded area, miles away from the Burger Chef.
And the way they were murdered, it's chilling. Each one different. 2 shot, 1 stabbed, 1 beaten.
Sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? Almost like a message. Was this one person or multiple attackers? The level of brutality is disturbing.
It definitely points to something more complex than a simple robbery, doesn't it?
Right. That's one of the big mysteries. Why go to all that trouble? If it was just about the money, why not just leave them bound and gagged at the restaurant?
Exactly. So the police start digging, right? They look at the usual suspects.
Local criminals, anyone connected to similar robberies? But nothing sticks. Dead end after dead end.
And you have to remember, this is 1978. They didn't have the tools we have today.
Imagine if they had DNA profiling back then. That unidentified hair found on one of the victims, that could have been a game changer.
Oh, totally. It makes you wonder how many cases could be solved if we could go back in time with today's technology. But they did have some evidence, right? Footprints, witnesses, that sort of thing.
Yeah, bits and pieces. A few people mentioned a suspicious vehicle near the Burger Chef that night, but their descriptions didn't match up. The footprints near the bodies, the ground was too messed up to get a clear print. It was frustrating for everyone involved.
Talk about a frustrating case. And then there's the guy who flunked that lie detector test.
Right, the polygraph. Remember, those things aren't foolproof. Nerves can play a role, and they're not always admissible in court. But still, he failed.
But without any other solid evidence.
Right. The police couldn't charge him, so we're left wondering, was he involved or just a red herring? Did he know more than he let on?
Another piece of the puzzle that just doesn't quite fit. And then there's the biggest question of all. Why? What was the motive? Robbery gone wrong? Drugs? Maybe a personal grudge?
You'd think it would be straightforward, but none of those theories really explain everything. The brutality, the different methods of murder, the location of the bodies.
Yeah, the whole thing is so calculated. It's like whoever did this wanted to make sure it stayed a mystery.
And you can imagine the impact on the community, the fear, the anxiety, the not knowing.
I bet people were looking over their shoulders for months, changing their routines, afraid to go out alone at night.
Exactly. Parents wouldn't let their kids out of their sight. Businesses beefed up security. The whole town was on edge. It's a stark reminder of how these crimes can affect everyone, not just the victims and their families.
Absolutely. But there's still hope, right? Cold case units are working on it. Maybe with today's technology, they can uncover something new.
There's always a chance. Even the tiniest piece of evidence could hold the key. They can test that hair, maybe find some DNA, or use new techniques to extract DNA from things they couldn't back in 1978.
Fingers crossed. This case, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Those 4 young lives cut short. The brutality, the conflicting clues, the unanswered questions. It's a puzzle that continues to haunt us.
It does. And it makes you wonder, what if new technology does give us answers? What will that mean for the families, for other unsolved cases?
It's a lot to ponder. So we leave you with this. If you have any thoughts, any theories, we want to hear them. Every voice, every idea could help bring justice to Jane, Ruth, Daniel, and Mark. And maybe, just maybe, bring peace to a community that's been waiting for answers for far too long.
It's a case that deserves closure. Let's hope we get there one day.
Here's to hoping.